Most people go through life chasing what others want for them. They follow paths that someone else laid out, hoping to meet expectations that were never theirs to begin with. But what if you stopped living for others? What if you stopped bending over backward to please people who might never truly care about your happiness? What if, for once, you made the choice to live for yourself, to build a life that feels meaningful, powerful, and true to who you really are? That's what we're diving into today. In this book, we're not just talking about the idea of living for yourself. We're breaking it down into practical steps you can take right now. This isn't about ignoring responsibilities or shutting out the people who matter. It's about finding balance and reclaiming your life on your terms. If you're tired of feeling stuck, if you're done with living to impress others, this is your wake-up call. You'll learn how to take control, build daily habits that empower you, and create a vision for the kind of life you've always wanted. By the end of this book, you'll not only feel inspired to take action, but you'll know exactly how to start making changes. Stick around, because this isn't just another pep talk. This is the push you've been waiting for to step up and start living for yourself. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. The journey begins. Understanding the need for self-discovery. Self-discovery is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. It is the foundation upon which everything else in your life should be built. Without understanding who you are, your life will always feel like a half-painted canvas, waiting for the missing strokes to give it meaning. Self-discovery is not a quick fix or a one-time event. It's a lifelong journey of uncovering the true essence of who you are, your values, your purpose, and your desires. Many people live their lives without ever asking themselves, "Who am I?" This question, while seemingly simple, holds the key to unlocking your potential. When you discover your true self, you create a strong sense of direction and purpose. You stop living for the expectations of others and start living for yourself. This journey will teach you how to define your own happiness, not based on societal standards or the approval of others, but on what truly brings you joy, fulfillment, and peace. In a world that constantly demands more from you, more time, more effort, more productivity, self-discovery becomes even more critical. It's easy to get swept up in the noise of life, to follow the crowd and let external pressures dictate your decisions. But when you take the time to focus inward, you can break free from these constraints. You can create a life that is truly yours, one where your actions, your values, and your mindset are in alignment with your deepest desires. The journey to self-discovery often starts with discomfort. It can be unsettling to look at yourself honestly and realize you don't know as much about yourself as you thought. But this is where growth begins. Embrace the discomfort. This is your opportunity to learn, to grow, and to build a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. The societal pressures of seeking validation from others. We live in a society that places a high value on external validation. From social media likes to professional accolades, the world constantly tells us that our worth is tied to how others perceive us. It's easy to fall into the trap of seeking approval, thinking that the more people approve of us, the more complete we'll feel. But the truth is, validation from others is like a temporary fix. It feels good for a moment, but it fades, leaving you searching for more. Seeking validation is not just about wanting praise, it's often about avoiding judgment. Many of us fear being criticized or rejected, so we tailor our actions and beliefs to fit what others want or expect from us. We try to please our families, friends, co-workers, and even strangers, often at the expense of our own happiness. This cycle can be exhausting. It can lead to feelings of insecurity, self-doubt, and anxiety. The more you seek validation, the more you lose sight of who you truly are. Your sense of worth becomes tied to others' opinions, and you become a prisoner to their expectations. Living for yourself means breaking free from this pattern. It means understanding that your value doesn't depend on anyone's approval except your own. When you stop seeking validation, you stop living in fear. You stop trying to please everyone and start focusing on what genuinely matters to you. Personal stories of dependency and its impact on happiness. I've met many people in my life who've struggled with the need for validation. I recall one individual who for years sacrificed his own happiness to meet the expectations of his family. He had always dreamed of becoming an artist, but his parents, who had a more traditional view of success, constantly pushed him toward a stable career in law. Every time he picked up a paintbrush, he felt a sense of guilt. His true passion was being smothered by the weight of others' approval. For years he lived in a state of quiet frustration, suppressing his desires and pretending to be content with a career he didn't love. He was successful by societal standards. He had a great job, a steady income, and the respect of his peers, but he wasn't happy. His life felt like a performance. He was acting, playing the role of someone he wasn't. Every day felt like a small death, a slow fading of his true self. It wasn't until he took the bold step to confront his fear of rejection and pursue his passion for art that things began to change. He faced the fear of disappointing his family and friends, but in doing so, he started to find joy and fulfillment. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was necessary. He had to learn to live for himself, to stop relying on external validation to feel worthy. This is a story that's not unique. Many of us are living in a similar way, trying to meet others' expectations at the cost of our own happiness. But here's the thing, true happiness comes when you learn to live for yourself, when you learn to make decisions that align with your values, not someone else's. As you begin your own journey of self-discovery, ask yourself, what have I been doing because I felt I had to, rather than because I wanted to? How much of my life has been shaped by what others expect from me? These are tough questions, but they are necessary for growth. You'll uncover truths about yourself that may be difficult to face, but they'll lead you to a deeper understanding of who you really are and what you truly want from life. The journey to living for yourself is not easy, but it's worth every step. It requires courage, honesty, and the willingness to challenge long-held beliefs. It's about reclaiming your life and living authentically, and that in itself is the greatest form of freedom. Chapter 2: Embracing your individuality. The moment you start embracing your true individuality is the moment you unlock your greatest potential. For far too long, we've been taught to fit into molds, to conform to societal expectations, and to be one of the crowd. But here's the hard truth: you were never meant to blend in. You were born to stand out, to carve your own path, and to live life on your own terms. When you embrace your uniqueness, you stop trying to be someone you're not, and start living in alignment with who you truly are. It's easy to get lost in the noise, isn't it? Everywhere you look, someone else is telling you how to live, what to wear, what to believe, and even how to feel. But at some point, you have to ask yourself, what do I really want? What makes me truly happy? When was the last time you stopped trying to please others and asked yourself, what do I need to be the best version of me? I get it. It's hard to break away from the pressure to conform. We live in a world where being normal is celebrated, where fitting in is the ultimate goal. But in the process of trying to fit into other people's expectations, we lose sight of who we really are. We stop being ourselves and start becoming versions of what others want us to be. And let me tell you something, when you live like that, you're not living at all, you're just existing. So how do you stop living for others and start living for yourself? It starts with embracing your individuality. It starts with understanding that your uniqueness is your greatest asset. The things that make you different, Whether it's the way you think, the way you look, or the way you approach life, are the things that will set you apart and lead you to true fulfillment. But in order to fully embrace your individuality, you first have to recognize it. Think about it for a second. How often do you compare yourself to others? How often do you measure your worth by someone else's standards? It's a habit that's easy to fall into, especially when social media constantly bombards us with images of what we should be. But the truth is, comparison only holds you back. The only person you should ever compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday. The only standard you should live by is your own. Here's the thing, when you start to embrace who you truly are, you'll realize that you're already enough. You don't need to change to fit someone else's idea of success or happiness. You just need to step into your power and own your uniqueness. There's only one you in the world, and that's something to be proud of. The sooner you recognize that, the sooner you'll stop hiding behind other people's expectations and start living a life that's true to yourself. But embracing your individuality isn't always easy. It requires you to face your fears and insecurities head-on. It requires you to confront the parts of yourself that you might have been hiding, the parts of you that you've been told are flaws. But those flaws, they're what make you human, they're what make you real. And when you stop running from them and start accepting them, you'll start to see how powerful they can be. I remember a time in my life when I was terrified to be myself. I was constantly worried about how others saw me. I thought if I just acted like everyone else, I would be accepted, and that would somehow make me happy. But the more I tried to fit in, the more miserable I became. I was living a life that wasn't my own, and deep down I knew it. It wasn't until I started to embrace my own individuality that things started to change. It was a slow process, but little by little, I began to let go of the need for external validation. I stopped worrying about what other people thought of me and started focusing on what made me feel alive. I began to honor my own values and passions, even if they didn't align with what society told me I should be doing. And you know what? That's when I started to feel truly free. Embracing your individuality is not just about doing what you want. It's about being unapologetically you. It's about knowing that the things that make you different are the things that make you valuable. Whether it's your quirky sense of humor, your unique perspective on life, or your passion for something that others might not understand, it's all part of what makes you who you are. And when you start embracing that, you'll find that the world opens up to you in ways you never imagined. But how do you start? It begins with self-reflection. You need to take the time to really think about who you are and what matters to you. What are your values? What are your passions? What makes you feel alive? These are the questions that will help you connect with your true self. And as you reflect, don't be afraid to dig deep. You might uncover things about yourself that you didn't even know existed, and that's okay. It's all part of the process. You also need to start letting go of the idea that you need anyone else's approval. The truth is, people will always have opinions about you. Some will like you, and some won't. But their opinions don't define you. Your worth is not tied to how others perceive you. The more you let go of the need for approval, the more you'll begin to step into your power. And as you start living more authentically, you'll notice something incredible. The right people will begin to gravitate toward you. The people who genuinely value you for who you are will enter your life, and those who only wanted you to fit into their idea of who you should be will fall away. It's a natural process. When you embrace your true self, you attract people who appreciate you for exactly who you are. But here's the most important part of all. Embracing your individuality doesn't mean you have to do it alone. It's about surrounding yourself with people who support you, who encourage you to be the best version of yourself. It's about finding your tribe, those people who get you, who see your potential, and who want to see you succeed. But remember, your individuality should always come first. Don't compromise who you are to fit into someone else's mold. And yes, it's going to be scary at times. It's going to feel uncomfortable, especially at first. But I promise you, it's worth it. When you start living for yourself, when you start embracing your individuality, you'll feel a freedom like you've never known. It's the freedom to live life on your own terms, to make your own choices, and to be the person you were always meant to be. So I challenge you to take the first step today. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, who am I really? What do I want out of life? What makes me unique, and how can I celebrate that? Embrace those answers. Embrace the parts of you that you've been hiding. And from this moment forward, promise yourself that you will never again try to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. It's time to start living for you, unapologetically and fearlessly. The world is waiting for the real you. Now go show it. Chapter 3. The Power of Self-Reflection. Self-reflection is one of the most powerful tools you have at your disposal, but it's also one of the most overlooked. In the chaos of our daily lives, we rarely take the time to truly pause, look inward, and honestly ask ourselves, what's really going on inside my mind and heart? We're so focused on external distractions, on the next task, the next goal, or the next thing we have to do, that we forget to check in with ourselves. But if you want to truly understand who you are, if you want to grow and evolve in a meaningful way, it's essential to carve out time for self-reflection. When we talk about self-reflection, we're not just talking about looking back on the day or casually pondering our actions. We're talking about a deep, honest examination of your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. It's about asking yourself the tough questions and really being willing to listen to the answers. It's about peeling back the layers to uncover the truths you might be hiding from or avoiding. That kind of introspection can be uncomfortable, even painful at times, but it's also incredibly freeing. When you understand yourself on a deeper level, you can make more intentional decisions, set more meaningful goals, and ultimately live a more fulfilling life. The first step in self-reflection is simply creating the space for it. I know it sounds simple, but it's so easy to get caught up in the busyness of life that we never slow down. When was the last time you had an hour to yourself with nothing to do, no distractions, no obligations? For most of us, the answer is probably not recently enough. Life moves fast, and it often feels like there's always something pulling at your attention. But if you don't make time to check in with yourself, you'll never truly understand what you want or need. You'll just be going through the motions. It can be helpful to set aside time each day for self-reflection, whether it's in the morning before your day gets hectic, or in the evening when everything is winding down. This could be 10 minutes or an hour, depending on what works for you, but the key is consistency. It's not about doing it once and expecting instant results. Self-reflection is a practice that requires patience and commitment. It's about showing up for yourself every single day, even when you don't feel like it. It's in these quiet moments of solitude that the real work begins. One of the most effective tools for self-reflection is journaling. I can't tell you how many times I've sat down with a blank page and just let my thoughts flow. Journaling allows you to get your thoughts out of your head and onto paper, where you can view them objectively. It's amazing how often the act of writing can help you see things more clearly. If you're feeling stuck or confused, just start writing. Write about how you're feeling in that moment, what's been bothering you, what you're grateful for, or even what you're afraid of. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or if it sounds good. The point is to be honest with yourself and let your thoughts take shape on the page. Sometimes when I journal, I ask myself specific questions. I'll write, what do I really want in life? Or what am I avoiding? Or why do I feel this way? These questions might seem simple, but they can lead to profound insights. And don't rush the process. Take your time to think about each question and let the answers come to you. Sometimes the most meaningful revelations don't come right away. It might take a few days of journaling to get to the core of what's really going on, but that's okay. The key is to keep asking yourself the right questions and be open to whatever comes up. Another powerful tool for self-reflection is meditation. I know, some people hear the word meditation and immediately picture sitting cross-legged for hours in complete silence. But meditation doesn't have to be this intimidating, high-level practice. It can be as simple as taking a few minutes each day to sit quietly and focus on your breath. It's about clearing your mind, calming your nervous system, and creating space to connect with yourself on a deeper level. When you meditate, you start to become more aware of your thoughts and feelings without judgment. You begin to notice patterns in your thinking, how often your mind races, or how certain emotions come up in response to certain situations. Over time, this increased awareness helps you gain more control over your thoughts and actions. You start to respond to life's challenges with more clarity, calm, and intention, rather than reacting out of habit or impulse. But here's the thing about self-reflection. It's not just about understanding your thoughts and feelings in the moment. It's about recognizing patterns in your behavior and how they impact your life. What's really driving your actions? What's motivating you to do the things you do? Are you chasing after approval or validation from others? Are you holding on to past hurts or fears that no longer serve you? Are you repeating the same mistakes over and over again because you haven't taken the time to learn from them? When you start to recognize these patterns, you gain the power to change them. You begin to understand the root causes of your habits and behaviors, which allows you to take intentional action to break free from them. If you've been stuck in a negative cycle, self-reflection helps you identify the thoughts and beliefs that are keeping you there. And when you can see the problem clearly, you can begin to make different choices that align with the person you want to become. Self-reflection also allows you to build emotional intelligence. It's not just about knowing what you're thinking, but also understanding how you're feeling. So often we suppress our emotions because we don't know how to process them, or we're afraid of what they might reveal. But when you take the time to reflect on your emotions, you give yourself the opportunity to understand them better. Why are you feeling anxious? What's behind that anger? What's fueling your sadness? These questions help you peel back the layers and get to the root of your emotions, which is the first step in managing them more effectively. By building emotional intelligence, you also become better at empathizing with others. You start to see that everyone has their own internal struggles, their own challenges, and their own fears. And when you can understand your own emotions, you develop a greater capacity to understand and support those around you. You become more compassionate, more patient, and more connected to the people in your life. But self-reflection isn't always easy. It's not always comfortable to confront your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, especially when they're not aligned with the person you want to be. It can be uncomfortable to acknowledge your shortcomings or face the things you'd rather not deal with. But here's the truth. That discomfort is a sign of growth. It's a sign that you're doing the hard work of becoming the best version of yourself. When you start the practice of self-reflection, you might feel overwhelmed by all the things you uncover, but don't let that discourage you. Take it one step at a time. You don't have to fix everything at once. The key is to keep showing up, to keep asking the tough questions, and to keep moving forward with intention. As you reflect, you'll find that you gain a deeper sense of clarity and purpose. You'll understand yourself better, make better decisions, and feel more confident in the direction you're heading. Self-reflection gives you the power to shape your life, rather than letting life shape you. And that's where true personal growth begins. So take the time to reflect, and trust that the answers you're seeking are already within you. Chapter 4. Breaking free from approval. We all crave approval, don't we? It's a natural human instinct. From the moment we're born, we start seeking validation, whether it's from our parents, friends, co-workers, or society as a whole. We want to feel seen, heard, and appreciated. We want to know that we're doing the right thing, that we're good enough, and that we matter. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to feel valued. The problem arises when that need for approval becomes the driving force behind everything we do. Think about the last time you made a decision. What motivated it? Was it because you genuinely wanted to do it, or was it because you wanted someone else to approve of it? It's easy to get caught up in this cycle of seeking approval because it feels safe. When you know that people are applauding you, you feel like you're on the right track. But what happens when the applause stops? What happens when you stop getting the validation you crave? The truth is, if you're constantly seeking approval from others, you're handing over your power. You're letting someone else dictate your worth. This need for approval can show up in all sorts of ways. Maybe you avoid saying what you truly think because you're afraid of rocking the boat. Maybe you go along with what everyone else is doing, even if it doesn't align with your values, just to fit in. Or maybe you overwork yourself, pushing beyond your limits, all in the name of impressing others. The problem with all of this is that it's exhausting. It's draining to live your life constantly trying to live up to someone else's expectations. And in the end, you're left feeling empty because you're not living for yourself. You're living for them. The first step in breaking free from this cycle is recognizing it. You have to admit to yourself that you've been living for others. You've been putting their approval above your own happiness, above your own desires, and above your own needs. This realization can be tough, but it's necessary. It's only when you see how much of your life has been shaped by the need for validation that you can begin to make a change. And that change starts with shifting your focus from seeking approval to seeking self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is the key to breaking free from the approval trap. It means embracing who you are, flaws and all, without needing anyone else's permission or praise. It's about knowing that you are enough, just as you are. It's about owning your mistakes, your imperfections, and your uniqueness without feeling the need to apologize for them. When you can accept yourself fully, you stop seeking validation from others. You start to realize that you don't need anyone else's approval to feel good about yourself. Now, this doesn't mean that you should stop caring about what others think altogether. We're all human, and we all want to feel appreciated and valued. But the key is to stop letting that need control your actions. You should care about what others think only when it aligns with your values and goals. If someone's opinion doesn't serve you or isn't in line with who you want to be, then it shouldn't matter. The opinions of others should never define your worth. You get to define that for yourself. One of the best ways to challenge the need for approval is to start asking yourself why you care so much about what others think. When you catch yourself seeking validation, pause for a moment and ask, why does this matter to me? Why am I seeking this approval? Often you'll find that the desire for approval comes from a place of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of not measuring up. And when you recognize that fear, you can start to see how it's controlling your behavior. It's holding you back from being your true self. But here's the thing, the fear of rejection or judgment is all in your head. Most of the time, The things we fear don't actually happen, and even if they do, they're rarely as bad as we imagine. The more you confront these fears, the less power they have over you. You start to realize that the opinions of others don't define who you are. You are the only one who gets to decide your worth. A powerful way to reframe your thinking around approval is to start looking at the things you're doing just to gain approval. Are there any areas of your life where you're compromising your values or your happiness to please others? Maybe you're staying in a job that doesn't fulfill you because you want to impress your boss or keep up with your colleagues. Maybe you're in a relationship that doesn't serve you because you're afraid of being alone or losing someone's approval. The truth is, when you start living for yourself, you'll start to attract the right people and the right opportunities into your life. You won't need to force things or beg for validation. It'll come naturally when you start living authentically. There's also a freedom that comes with releasing the need for approval. It's the freedom to make decisions without second-guessing yourself. It's the freedom to take risks, to try new things, and to fail without worrying about what others think. It's the freedom to speak your mind and express your true feelings without fear of rejection. When you stop living for approval, you free yourself from the invisible chains that have been holding you back. One of the most powerful ways to reinforce this shift is to surround yourself with people who support and encourage your authentic self. If you're constantly around people who demand approval, or who only love you when you meet their expectations, it'll be harder to break free from the cycle of seeking validation. But when you surround yourself with people who accept you as you are, people who encourage your growth, your individuality and your authenticity, you'll start to believe in your own worth. These are the people who will lift you up, not because you're doing everything right, but because they see the real you and appreciate you for it. Another powerful way to stop seeking approval is to start taking action on the things that matter to you, regardless of what others think. Often we hold back from doing the things that truly excite us or that feel right, because we're afraid of how others will perceive us. But when you start taking action based on your own desires and values, you begin to build confidence. You start to see that you can trust yourself to make decisions that are in alignment with your true self. And with that confidence comes the realization that you don't need anyone's approval to move forward in life. Breaking free from the need for approval is a process. It takes time, effort, and self-compassion. But once you start down that path, you'll notice a shift. You'll feel lighter, more confident and more empowered to make decisions that align with your authentic self. And the more you practice living for yourself, the less you'll care about what others think. You'll realize that the only approval you truly need is your own. Chapter 5. The Art of Surrendering Control. Letting go of control is one of the hardest things we'll ever do. It feels like a paradox, doesn't it? We're told to take charge of our lives, to be in control of our destiny, to make things happen. And yet there's this deep truth that keeps calling out to us. Sometimes the more we try to control, the more out of control everything feels. The more we try to hold on tightly, the more we risk losing the very thing we're trying to protect. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's essential for growth, peace and true freedom. If you think about it, life is full of things that we can't control. We can't control how other people act, what they say, or what they think of us. We can't control the outcomes of every situation. We can't even control how the weather will behave, or when we'll face hardships in life. There's a whole universe of things happening around us, and no matter how much we try to manipulate or micromanage it all, we simply don't have control over everything. But here's the thing, that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay, it's liberating. The need to control everything can drive us crazy. It creates unnecessary stress, anxiety and frustration. We get so fixated on trying to control things that we forget we have the power to control how we respond to them. We forget that we can control our own thoughts, our own emotions, and the way we navigate through the chaos. And that is enough. This isn't to say that we should just give up and stop trying altogether. Of course, we should work hard to achieve our goals, to plan, and to strive for the best outcomes. But there's a difference between working towards something and obsessively trying to control every tiny detail of how it unfolds. Sometimes the hardest part of moving forward is simply accepting that we can't control everything and learning to surrender to the process. Let's be honest, we all have a tendency to want things our way. We make plans, set goals, and lay out our strategies, and that's good. We need those things. But life rarely follows our exact blueprint. There are always twists, turns, and unexpected detours, and it's easy to feel lost or defeated when things don't go according to plan. But here's the truth. Those detours are often where we find the growth, the lessons, and the opportunities that we would have missed if everything had gone perfectly. It's like trying to control the flow of a river. The more you try to force it to go in one direction, the more it resists. But when you let go of the need to control the river and simply let it flow, you realize that it knows where it's going. You're not fighting against it anymore. You're learning to move with it. This isn't about giving up or becoming passive. It's about letting go of the unrealistic expectation that we can bend everything to our will. And when we do that, we free ourselves to experience life as it comes, rather than constantly battling against it. When you stop trying to control everything, you create space for peace. You begin to understand that the world will keep turning with or without your constant input. You start to trust that things will work out, even if you don't have all the answers right now. This doesn't mean you stop working or stop caring. It means that you're no longer consumed by the need to micromanage every little detail. You start to realize that you can trust in the process, trust in the timing, and trust that you are always exactly where you need to be. There's a certain freedom in surrendering control. It's the freedom to just be. It's the freedom to stop carrying the weight of everything on your shoulders. It's the freedom to stop worrying about what might happen and instead focus on what is happening right now. When you let go of the need to control, you make room for the unexpected, for creativity, and for real growth. You learn to embrace uncertainty and to trust that you have the inner strength to handle whatever comes your way. One of the most powerful ways to start letting go of control is through mindfulness. Being mindful means being present in the moment without judgment. It means accepting things as they are, without trying to change them. When you practice mindfulness, you stop obsessing over what's next and start truly living in the now. You stop overthinking every decision and start trusting that you are capable of navigating whatever comes your way. This is where peace begins. It's not about perfecting every moment or having everything go your way. It's about accepting things as they come and doing your best with them. You can also practice letting go of control by learning to detach from outcomes. Often we stress over results because we feel like our worth is tied to success. We want to win, we want to prove something, and we want to be validated by our achievements. But when we tie our happiness to outcomes, we set ourselves up for disappointment. We forget that the journey itself is just as important as the destination. The key is to focus on the process, on showing up every day, on doing the work, and on trusting that the results will come in their own time. When you detach from the outcome, you free yourself from the pressure of perfection. You give yourself permission to enjoy the journey, no matter how it unfolds. Letting go of control also means learning to trust yourself. It's trusting that you have the wisdom and the strength to handle whatever challenges come your way. It's trusting that even when things don't go as planned, you'll find a way to adapt and keep moving forward. Trusting yourself means knowing that you are resilient enough to handle life's ups and downs. And when you start to trust yourself, you begin to let go of the need to control everything. You realize that you don't need to plan every step, every outcome, or every decision. You have the tools inside you to navigate whatever comes next. The beauty of letting go of control is that it doesn't mean you stop caring or stop taking action. It simply means that you stop forcing things to go a certain way. You stop trying to control every little detail, and instead you embrace the uncertainty. You trust that the universe, life, or whatever you believe in will guide you in the right direction. You trust that things will unfold in their own time, and that you are capable of handling whatever comes your way. So, what do you do now? Start by taking a step back. Identify the areas of your life where you're trying to control too much. What are you holding on to so tightly that it's causing you stress or anxiety? What are you afraid of losing or failing at? Once you identify those things, let them go. Start small. Let go of the need to control the small things, and gradually you'll learn to surrender the bigger things. And when you do, you'll find that life feels lighter, freer, and more fulfilling. You'll have the space to grow, to explore, and to become the best version of yourself. Chapter 6. Setting Personal Goals. You know what's funny? We spend so much of our time looking for motivation, hoping for that perfect spark that will light the fire inside us. We think if we can just find the right reason, the right push, or the right inspiration, we'll be unstoppable. But the truth is, motivation isn't something you wait for, it's something you create. It's something you build with intention, every single day. And that starts with setting goals that are meaningful to you, goals that push you to grow and get better, and goals that are aligned with who you truly are. Let's break it down a little. When you think about your life, what do you want? What do you really want? Not what society says you should want, not what your parents or friends expect from you, but what you desire at the deepest level. The answer to that question is where your goals should begin. So many people go through life setting goals that sound good on paper but don't actually excite them. They're just trying to check boxes, to meet external expectations. But that's not how you get anywhere that matters. You don't build a life that feels alive by trying to meet other people's goals. You build it by setting goals that are yours, that resonate with your soul. The first step in this process is to be clear on what those goals are. And I'm not just talking about vague feel-good ideas, like I want to be happy or I want to be successful. Those are nice sentiments, but they're not specific enough to actually guide you. I'm talking about real concrete goals that you can measure, that you can break down into actionable steps. It's not just about getting in shape, it's about committing to work out 3 times a week for the next 6 months. It's not about making more money, it's about setting a specific financial target and then figuring out exactly how you're going to reach it. That's what creates progress. Clarity leads to action. One of the biggest mistakes people make when setting goals is trying to do everything at once. They think that if they just throw enough things on their to-do list, somehow they'll magically achieve everything they want. But that's not how it works. The key to success isn't about spreading yourself thin and doing a little bit of everything. It's about focusing on what really matters, narrowing down your goals to the most important ones, and committing to them fully. When you spread yourself out too much, you lose your focus. You end up being busy instead of being productive. And busy doesn't equal success. Purpose does. Focus does. It's about being strategic with your energy, not wasting it on distractions. Now let's talk about something that really matters when it comes to goal-setting action. It's one thing to have a goal, but if you don't back it up with consistent, focused effort, it's just a wish. This is where most people fall short. They get excited about a goal for a week or two, but then life gets in the way, and the motivation fades. But let me tell you, the key to long-term success is consistency. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline, that's the thing that keeps you going when you don't feel like it. Discipline is the muscle you build by doing what you said you were going to do, even when you don't feel like it. It's waking up early to hit the gym, even when you'd rather sleep in. It's sitting down to work on your business, even when you'd rather scroll through social media. It's doing the hard work, day in and day out, without needing someone to remind you why it matters. That's why setting clear, actionable goals is so powerful. When you know exactly what you need to do, it becomes easier to show up and do it, because you're not wasting energy trying to figure out what's next. The more specific you can get with your goals, the easier it is to break them down into daily tasks. And those daily tasks are what keep you on track. Little by little, step by step, you'll start to see progress. The magic happens in the small, consistent actions. That's how you build momentum. But here's the catch. Goals alone aren't enough. You need a plan. A goal without a plan is like setting sail without a map. You might end up somewhere, but it's probably not where you wanted to go. So, take your big goals and break them down into smaller, manageable steps. Then, take those steps and map out when and how you're going to do them. If your goal is to start a business, don't just say, "I want to start a business." That's too vague. Ask yourself, what do I need to do first? Do I need to write a business plan? Do I need to research the market? Do I need to create a website? Once you break it down, you can set a timeline for each step, and before you know it, you're moving forward with purpose. Here's something else that will help you stay on track: accountability. It's one thing to have a goal, but it's another thing entirely to have someone or something holding you accountable for it. That's why having an accountability partner is so powerful. This could be a friend, a mentor, or even a coach. Tell someone what you're working on and set up regular check-ins to track your progress. When you know that someone else is watching and supporting you, it adds an extra layer of commitment. Plus, having someone to talk to about your challenges and wins helps you stay motivated and on track. Another key to achieving your goals is flexibility. I know, you probably weren't expecting me to say that. But let me explain. You have to be willing to adjust your plan when things don't go as expected. Life doesn't always follow our timeline, and sometimes the road to success isn't as straightforward as we'd like. There will be bumps, setbacks, and detours along the way. That's just part of the process. The important thing is not to give up when things go wrong, but to adjust, learn, and keep moving forward. Flexibility allows you to adapt to change without losing sight of your ultimate goal. I want you to understand that setting goals isn't just about achieving a specific result, it's about who you become in the process. The journey of reaching your goals is what shapes you. Each challenge, each obstacle, each small success builds you into a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. And that's what truly matters. When you look back on your life, you won't just remember the things you achieved, you'll remember the person you became by pursuing those goals. You'll remember the discipline, the focus, the growth, and the determination it took to get there. So, get clear about what you want, build a solid plan, and take action every day. But don't forget to be flexible, to adjust when things get tough, and to embrace the process. Because that's where the real magic is, that's where your growth happens, and that's where you find the strength to keep pushing, even when the road gets hard. Stay disciplined, stay focused, and trust the journey. The results will come, and when they do, you'll know that they were earned. Every single step will have been worth it. Chapter 7. Cultivating self-love. You've probably heard it a million times, right? You have to love yourself before anyone else can love you. And honestly, there's a lot of truth to that. But here's the thing. I'm not just talking about surface-level self-love. I'm not talking about taking bubble baths or buying yourself flowers when you're feeling down. I'm talking about the deep, real kind of self-love that fuels everything you do. The kind of self-love that makes you resilient in the face of adversity, confident in your decisions, and secure in who you are, no matter what's going on around you. Because if you can't truly love yourself, you'll always be seeking that validation from others. And let me tell you, seeking external validation is a dangerous game. It's like a bottomless pit. You can never fill it up. But self-love, that's something you can build for yourself. It's something you control. And when you build it, it will change everything. Let me ask you a question. How often do you really take a moment to appreciate yourself? How often do you stop and acknowledge the incredible things you've done, the strength you've shown, the progress you've made? We're all so busy, constantly chasing the next goal or trying to fix our flaws, that we forget to take a step back and recognize just how far we've come. Self-love is about recognizing your own worth without needing anyone else to tell you. It's about looking in the mirror and not just seeing the flaws or the mistakes, but seeing the person who has fought through difficult times, who has kept going even when it felt impossible. When was the last time you gave yourself credit for that? Now, let's be real here. Self-love isn't always easy. It's not some magical feeling that just appears overnight. It's a practice. It's a daily choice. And sometimes it's a tough one to make, especially if you've spent a lot of your life criticizing yourself or seeking approval from others. It's going to take work, but it's worth every bit of effort. The first step in cultivating real self-love is about changing the way you talk to yourself. Think about it. How do you speak to yourself when you make a mistake or fall short of your goals? Are you kind to yourself, or do you tear yourself down? Do you offer yourself the same understanding and compassion you would offer a friend? Or do you beat yourself up and dwell on your shortcomings? This is where the magic begins. Because the way you speak to yourself matters. Your thoughts shape your reality. And if you're constantly telling yourself that you're not good enough, that you'll never succeed, or that you're unworthy of love and success, then guess what? You're going to start believing it. But if you can learn to replace that negative self-talk with kindness, encouragement, and affirmations of your worth, everything will start to shift. When you make a mistake, instead of telling yourself that you're a failure, remind yourself that mistakes are part of growth, that they don't define who you are. And when you achieve something, even the small victories, take a moment to acknowledge it and say, I did that. I'm proud of myself. This simple act of self-recognition is an important step toward building lasting self-love. Self-love is also about taking care of your physical, emotional, and mental well-being. It's about treating yourself with the same respect and care that you would show to someone you love deeply. Do you take time to rest when you need it? Do you nourish your body with healthy food and exercise? Do you give yourself permission to relax and recharge when you're feeling burnt out? Too many of us neglect our own needs because we're so focused on everything and everyone else. But you can't pour from an empty cup. If you don't prioritize your own well-being, you'll never have the energy or the clarity to show up as your best self for others, or to pursue your goals with full force. When you start taking better care of yourself, physically and mentally, you're making a statement to the world and to yourself that you're worthy of love and respect, that you deserve to feel good in your own skin, to have peace of mind, and to live a life that aligns with your values. It's about setting boundaries with others and with yourself, making sure that you protect your energy and your time. Self-love is about being kind to yourself, but it's also about being strong enough to say no when you need to avoid toxic situations and relationships, and to stand up for what you need in order to thrive. Another critical aspect of self-love is forgiveness. I know it's easy to say and hard to do, but holding on to past mistakes, past hurts, or past regrets is like carrying around a weight that slows you down and keeps you stuck. When you forgive yourself, you release that burden. You give yourself the freedom to move forward without being constantly weighed down by the past. And you deserve that freedom. You're not perfect. None of us are. We all make mistakes. But those mistakes don't define us. They're just part of the journey. The key is to learn from them, forgive yourself, and then let them go. The more you practice self-forgiveness, the lighter you'll feel, and the more room you'll make for self-love to grow. Another way to cultivate self-love is by surrounding yourself with people who support you, people who lift you up rather than bring you down. You're the average of the people you spend the most time with. So ask yourself, do the people in your life make you feel good about yourself? Do they encourage you to be your best, to grow, and to pursue your dreams? Or do they make you feel small, doubting your worth or abilities? You have the power to choose who you allow into your life. And choosing to surround yourself with positive, uplifting people is a huge act of self-love. You deserve to be around people who remind you of your greatness, who push you to be better, and who support you when you fall. Here's the thing, self-love is not selfish. It's not about being arrogant or putting yourself above others. It's about acknowledging your worth, taking care of yourself, and allowing yourself to show up as your best self in the world. When you love yourself fully, you have more love to give to others. You become a better friend, partner, and ally. You become more resilient, more confident, and more willing to face the challenges life throws at you. But it all starts with you. It all starts with the love you give yourself. So make it a priority. Choose to love yourself, not just on the good days but on the hard days too. And when you do, you'll begin to see just how powerful that love can be, not just in your own life, but in the lives of everyone around you. Chapter 8. Building Emotional Resilience. Life doesn't always go the way we want it to. It throws challenges at us, and sometimes it feels like we're being tested to our limits. But what if I told you that the very thing that makes you stronger is the ability to bounce back from those challenges? That's resilience. It's the ability to face adversity, take the hit, and keep going. It's not about avoiding pain or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about learning how to deal with it, grow from it, and ultimately use it to propel yourself forward. Let's be real for a second. Everyone goes through tough times. You're going to face disappointment, heartbreak, failure, and loss. It's inevitable. But what separates those who thrive from those who stay stuck is how they handle those situations. It's easy to stay down when life knocks you down. It's tempting to stay in bed, shut the world out, and feel sorry for yourself. But that's not how you grow. That's not how you build emotional strength. If you want to develop resilience, you've got to learn to get back up, even when you don't feel like it. One of the first things to understand about emotional resilience is that it starts with perspective. How you see the situation matters. When something goes wrong, when things don't go the way you hoped, the natural instinct is to feel defeated. But what if you saw those setbacks as opportunities for growth instead? What if every challenge was a lesson in disguise, something that could teach you more about yourself and the world around you? It might sound like a stretch, but hear me out. Our perspective on hardship can either trap us in a cycle of self-pity, or it can open us up to a new way of thinking. I know it's not always easy to see the lesson in the middle of pain, but it's important to remind yourself that your response is what truly matters. I've been there. I've faced moments when everything seemed impossible. There were days when I wanted to quit, when I doubted myself, when I felt like the weight of the world was too much to carry. But the turning point came when I realized that I had a choice. I could either let my circumstances define me, or I could choose to define myself by how I handled them. That shift in perspective is the key to emotional resilience. The next thing to remember is that emotional resilience doesn't mean you have to be tough all the time. It's not about shutting down your emotions or pretending that you're fine when you're not. Resilience isn't about suppressing your feelings, it's about allowing yourself to feel them and then moving through them. When you experience pain, sadness, or disappointment, it's okay to feel those things. It's okay to cry, to grieve, to be angry, to be frustrated. These emotions are valid. They're part of the human experience. But what separates resilient people from others is their ability to feel those emotions, acknowledge them, and then take action to move forward. For a long time, I struggled with this. I thought that being strong meant never showing weakness, never allowing myself to be vulnerable. But in reality, vulnerability is a powerful tool for building resilience. When you allow yourself to feel what you feel without judgment, without trying to push it away, you give yourself the space to heal and grow. And when you start to heal, you start to build the emotional strength you need to keep going. This is a key part of emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize your emotions, understand where they're coming from, and use them to navigate through life, instead of letting them control you. Another essential aspect of resilience is your ability to adapt. Life is unpredictable, and you can't control everything. There are going to be times when things don't go according to plan, when the path you thought you were on suddenly shifts. And that's where resilience comes in, being able to adapt, to adjust your mindset, and to keep moving forward, even when things feel uncertain. The more flexible you are, the more you can roll with the punches. It's like trying to build a sandcastle during a storm. You can either watch it fall apart, or you can rebuild it. You can adapt to the changes and keep going, even when things feel out of your control. This doesn't mean you have to like change or embrace every challenge with open arms. It's okay to feel frustrated when things don't go the way you expected. But what resilient people understand is that resistance only keeps them stuck. When you fight against the changes, when you resist what's happening, you only add more stress and more difficulty to the situation. But when you embrace change, even if it's uncomfortable, you make space for growth. You learn to adapt, to evolve, and to become more flexible in your thinking. That's how resilience works. Resilience also involves a sense of self-awareness. The more you understand yourself, the more you're able to handle life's ups and downs. When you know your strengths and weaknesses, you can leverage your strengths to push through difficult times, and you can work on strengthening your weaknesses so that they don't hold you back. Self-awareness helps you recognize when you need help, when you need a break, and when you need to push yourself further. It's about knowing when to take action and when to rest, when to be patient with yourself, and when to challenge yourself to do better. When it comes to resilience, support is another huge factor. While it's important to be able to handle things on your own, emotional resilience is also about knowing when to reach out. You don't have to go through everything by yourself. Leaning on friends, family, or a support network doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. And sometimes asking for help is the bravest thing you can do. The people around you can offer you a different perspective, give you advice, or simply be there to listen when you need it. Being able to rely on others while still maintaining your own strength is a key component of resilience. One final thing about resilience is that it's not about avoiding failure, it's about embracing it. Failure is a part of life, and it's often where the biggest lessons are learned. The most resilient people are the ones who don't let failure stop them. They use it as fuel to keep going, to refine their approach, and to come back stronger. You don't learn from your successes, you learn from your mistakes. It's the failures, the struggles, the setbacks that teach you the most. And when you learn from them, you become more resilient, more capable, and more prepared for the next challenge. So, if you're facing something difficult right now, if you feel like you're stuck, or like you're never going to make it through, remember this: resilience isn't about being perfect. It's not about never feeling pain or fear. It's about learning how to face those emotions, how to rise up after each fall, and how to keep going even when it feels impossible. You have everything you need inside you to be resilient. It's just a matter of embracing your own strength, learning from the tough times, and continuing to move forward. The journey won't always be easy, but with resilience, you can face anything life throws your way. Chapter 9. Fostering healthy relationships. If you want to truly understand who you are, who you're meant to be, and what it takes to get there, you've got to look at the relationships in your life. Now, that doesn't mean just the obvious ones, the romantic partners, the family, the friends. Sure, those are important, but I'm talking about the entire spectrum of relationships you have with people, including the ones that challenge you, the ones that pull you down, and the ones that lift you up. Every relationship, good or bad, shapes the way you see yourself and the way you approach the world. And if you're serious about your own growth, then you need to start evaluating those relationships and understanding their impact on your life. Here's the thing: not all relationships are created equal. Some people are going to bring out the best in you. They're going to support you, encourage you, and inspire you to be better, to push harder, and to dream bigger. And then there are others who will drain you, criticize you, and make you question your worth. It's not always easy to tell the difference, especially when you're caught up in the day-to-day of life, but recognizing the right kind of relationships is crucial to building a strong foundation for personal growth. One of the hardest things to do is let go of toxic relationships. It's uncomfortable, it's messy, it feels like a betrayal, and it's easy to think that you're being selfish for doing what's best for you. But here's the truth: you are not obligated to stay in relationships that are holding you back, no matter how long you've known someone, no matter how much history you have. If a relationship is draining your energy, causing you to doubt yourself, or keeping you stuck in unhealthy patterns, it's time to let go. And when you do, it's not about cutting people out of your life out of spite. It's about making space for the people who deserve to be there. It's not just about the people you need to cut out. It's also about the people you need to invest more in. Sometimes we get so caught up in the negative relationships that we forget about the positive ones. We take the people who truly have our backs for granted. These are the people who lift us up when we're down, who tell us the hard truth when we need to hear it, and who believe in us even when we don't believe in ourselves. These are the relationships that matter the most, but they require effort and attention to thrive. What do I mean by that? I mean that you can't just sit back and expect relationships to grow on their own. Just like anything else in life, the relationships that are worth having require work. It's about showing up, being there for the people who matter, and being vulnerable enough to let them in. It's about giving as much as you receive. And it's about recognizing when a relationship isn't healthy and being willing to make the hard decision to walk away. So many of us have this idea that we have to keep a certain number of friends or maintain every single relationship we've ever had. But that's a lie. You don't need 100 friends. You don't need to be liked by everyone. What you need are people who align with your values, who support your vision, and who make you feel like you can be your true self. Quality over quantity. You don't need 1,000,000 people in your circle if the ones in your circle don't actually make your life better. The people you surround yourself with should inspire you, challenge you, and make you want to be the best version of yourself. And sometimes, the people who challenge you the most are the ones who teach you the most about who you are. I'm talking about those relationships that are tough, the ones that feel like constant friction. At first glance, it's easy to think that these relationships are just draining your energy, and maybe they are in some ways. But if you look deeper, you'll see that they can also teach you a lot about yourself. When you face challenges in relationships, it forces you to grow. It forces you to develop boundaries, to understand your needs, and to communicate more effectively. In some cases, these difficult relationships can become a mirror for your own insecurities, fears, and weaknesses. It's important to understand that relationships aren't just about what you get from others, they're about what you bring to the table as well. The energy you put into a relationship will come back to you. If you're consistently supportive, kind, and understanding, you're going to attract those same qualities back. But if you're constantly negative, self-absorbed, or toxic in your interactions with others, that's what you'll get in return. If you want to build healthy, supportive relationships, you've got to start by being a healthy, supportive person yourself. Another aspect to consider is boundaries. Healthy boundaries are essential in any relationship, and I'm not just talking about physical boundaries, but emotional ones as well. Too often, we let people cross our boundaries, whether it's because we don't want to rock the boat, or because we're afraid of losing the relationship. But here's the thing, if you let people treat you badly, if you allow them to disrespect your time, energy, or emotions, you're not doing anyone a favor. You're not helping them, and you're certainly not helping yourself. Setting boundaries means knowing when to say no, knowing when to stand up for yourself, and knowing when to walk away from a relationship that's no longer serving you. Boundaries also mean knowing what you will and won't tolerate. And this isn't just about others, this is about how you treat yourself too. If you constantly put other people's needs ahead of your own, if you're always sacrificing your own well-being for the sake of others, you're going to burn out. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, and that respect starts with respecting yourself. When you set boundaries, you teach others how to treat you, and you also teach yourself how to take care of your own needs. One of the most important things you can do for yourself and for your relationships is to stop depending on others for your happiness. You are responsible for your own happiness. That means that while relationships can bring joy, love, and connection into your life, they shouldn't be the sole source of your happiness. If you're relying on someone else to make you feel whole, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You can't expect anyone else to fill a void that only you can fill. The foundation of every healthy relationship is mutual support and shared growth, not dependence. At the end of the day, relationships are about connection. They're about shared experiences, support, and growth. But they're also about knowing when to let go, when to invest, and when to stand up for yourself. Your relationships will either help you grow or hold you back, and it's up to you to decide which ones are worth your time and energy. You deserve relationships that empower you, that inspire you, and that allow you to be your true self. Don't settle for anything less. Be intentional about the people you let into your life. Evaluate the relationships that matter most and nurture them, and don't be afraid to walk away from the ones that are dragging you down. The relationships you keep will shape the person you become. Make sure they're helping you become the best version of yourself. Chapter 10. The role of solitude in self-discovery. There's a lot of noise in the world today. It comes from everywhere: the people around you, the expectations of society, the constant buzz of social media, the news, advertisements. It's all designed to pull you in every direction, to tell you who you should be, what you should want, and how you should live. But here's the truth: if you're ever going to find out who you really are, you need to learn to listen to the silence. It's easy to forget about solitude when there's so much happening around you. Being surrounded by noise, by the distractions of modern life, becomes second nature. We're constantly connected, constantly on the go, always looking for something outside ourselves to fill the void. But it's in the quiet, in those moments when you're alone with your thoughts, that you'll find the answers you've been searching for. If you've never spent much time alone with yourself, it might feel uncomfortable at first. It's easy to think that being alone means being lonely, but that's a false narrative we've been fed. Solitude isn't about isolation or cutting yourself off from the world. It's about reconnecting with who you are beneath all the layers of expectation and influence. It's about taking the time to reflect, to listen to your inner voice, to get to know yourself on a deeper level. The first thing you have to understand is that being alone doesn't mean you're missing out on anything. In fact, it's often the opposite. When you're constantly surrounded by other people, you lose touch with what really matters to you. You get caught up in other people's opinions, other people's goals, other people's lives. And while there's nothing wrong with having a community, being part of something bigger than yourself, there's also a lot of power in being alone. You need time to recharge, to reset, and to think without distractions. If you've ever tried to meditate or sit quietly for a few minutes, you know how hard it can be. The mind is constantly racing, thinking about the things you have to do, the conversations you've had, the worries and the to-do lists that never seem to end. It feels like you can't escape it. But that's the whole point. Solitude is about learning to quiet that noise, to create space for your true thoughts and feelings to emerge. And it's not something that happens overnight. It takes practice, patience, and a willingness to sit with the discomfort of being alone with your own thoughts. When you give yourself the gift of solitude, you start to notice things you've never noticed before. You start to hear your own voice. You start to understand what you truly want, what you need, and what you're capable of. You start to trust yourself in a way that's impossible when you're constantly surrounded by other people's opinions. You start to realize that you have everything you need within you, that the answers you've been searching for have always been there, just waiting for you to quiet the outside world long enough to hear them. Solitude gives you the opportunity to reflect on your past, to think about the choices you've made, and to learn from your experiences. It's like looking in a mirror that doesn't lie, where you can see yourself clearly, without the distortion of other people's expectations. And when you're able to see yourself clearly, you can start to make better choices for your future. You can start to see where you've been holding yourself back, where you've been too influenced by the opinions of others, and where you need to make changes in order to live a life that's true to who you really are. But here's the thing: solitude isn't about escaping the world or rejecting relationships. It's about creating balance. You can have meaningful relationships with others and still take time for yourself. In fact, you need both. You need the connection, the support and the love that comes from being with others, but you also need the space to reflect, to recharge, and to reconnect with yourself. It's like breathing in and breathing out. You need both to survive, and both are essential to your well-being. If you've been running from solitude, it's time to stop. It's time to embrace the quiet moments, the times when you're alone with nothing but your own thoughts. It's in these moments that you'll truly discover who you are and what you're capable of. You'll find clarity, direction, and a sense of peace that you can't get from anything or anyone else. Solitude isn't a punishment, it's a gift. It's the key to unlocking your full potential, to discovering the best version of yourself. And if you're afraid of being alone, if it scares you or makes you uncomfortable, that's okay. It's normal. We've been conditioned to believe that we need constant stimulation, constant interaction, constant validation, but real growth happens in those quiet moments. Real progress is made when you're willing to sit with yourself, without distractions, and face the things you've been avoiding. The more you embrace solitude, the easier it becomes. You'll find that it doesn't feel like a punishment or a void anymore. It becomes a sanctuary. It's a place where you can think deeply, create freely, and connect with your true self. It's where you can make sense of the chaos, where you can find the clarity that you need to move forward in life. So make time for yourself. Spend time alone, in the quiet. Don't be afraid of what you might find when you're alone with your thoughts. Embrace it, use it, and let it shape you into the person you're meant to be. The world is noisy, but when you learn to quiet that noise and listen to yourself, you'll find that the answers you need were always there, just waiting for you to hear them. Chapter 11. Reframing social expectations. We've all been there, stuck in a cycle of trying to live up to someone else's expectations, constantly measuring ourselves against a standard that's not even our own. It's like being on a treadmill that never stops. You think you're getting somewhere, but all you're doing is running in place, exhausted and frustrated. And the worst part is that you don't even realize how much of your life has been shaped by things that don't matter, by pressures that aren't your own, by a society that tells you what's acceptable, what's cool, and what's normal. But here's the truth. The only life that matters is the one you create for yourself. If you look around, it's easy to see how society has shaped the way we think. From the moment we're born, we're told what to wear, what to say, who to hang out with, what career to chase, how to act. It's like there's a checklist we're all supposed to follow. Get good grades, go to a good school, get a job, get married, have kids, retire. But where in that plan is your happiness? Where in that checklist is your authenticity? We've become so obsessed with meeting everyone else's expectations that we've lost sight of what really matters to us. And we've been conditioned to believe that if we don't follow the rules, if we step out of line, we're somehow failures. But nothing could be further from the truth. Think about it for a second. What do you really want from your life? What are your goals? Not the ones your parents told you to have. Not the ones your friends expect you to achieve. What are the things that truly light you up, that make your heart race with excitement, that fill you with purpose? It's easy to get lost in the noise of everyone else's opinions, but when you start to tune out that noise and listen to your own heart, that's when you begin to discover your true path. It's time to reframe how you see yourself in relation to the world around you. Instead of seeing yourself as just another piece in a giant puzzle that's supposed to fit into a perfect picture, see yourself as the one who gets to decide what the picture looks like. You are the creator of your own life. You don't have to conform to what anyone else thinks is right. The power is in your hands to define who you are and what you want out of life. But how do you break free from this societal pressure? How do you stop chasing other people's dreams and start living your own? It starts with understanding one thing: most of the expectations you're trying to meet aren't even your own. They've been passed down to you over the years, through your family, your school, your friends, the media. And they've become so ingrained in your mind that you don't even question them. But once you do, once you start to ask yourself, why do I believe this? You begin to see how much of it is just noise, distractions, things that don't serve you. The key to breaking free from societal expectations is self-awareness. You have to become conscious of the influences in your life. Pay attention to the messages you're receiving on a daily basis. Notice when something feels off or doesn't align with who you are or what you believe. And then give yourself permission to let go of that thing, that belief, that idea. You don't have to carry it with you just because someone else said it was important. If it doesn't resonate with you, if it doesn't feel true to who you are, you have every right to release it. At first this might feel uncomfortable. After all, you've been living according to these expectations for so long. The thought of breaking away from the norm might even feel like a risk. But here's the thing, real growth happens when you step outside of your comfort zone. When you start to question everything and build your life on your own terms. Yes, it's going to be difficult at first. You might feel judged. You might feel like you're letting people down, but in the long run, you'll thank yourself. Because once you break free from the chains of societal expectations, you'll experience a level of freedom and peace that's hard to describe. When you embrace who you truly are and stop pretending to be someone you're not, that's when you start living authentically. And there's a beauty in authenticity. When you're true to yourself, people start to respect you in a way that's deeper than superficial admiration. They recognize your courage, your strength, your commitment to being yourself, even if it's not what society says is normal. And that kind of respect is worth more than anything. I want you to think about the last time you made a decision based on what someone else wanted for you. Maybe it was a career choice, a relationship decision, or even something as small as what you wore. How did that feel? Did it feel right, or did it feel like you were trying to please someone else? Now think about a time when you made a decision that was true to you, when you did something because you wanted to, not because you thought you had to. How did that feel? Probably a lot better, right? That's the power of living on your own terms. The good news is that you can start today. You don't have to wait for some grand moment of clarity to break free from societal pressure. You can make the decision right now to start listening to your own voice and stop letting the world dictate how you should live. It won't be easy at first. There will be times when you feel uncertain, when you doubt yourself, when you're afraid of judgment. But trust me, the rewards are worth it. Every time you make a decision that's true to who you are, you get stronger. You build confidence. You start to trust yourself more. And you begin to realize that you don't need anyone's permission to be who you were always meant to be. You are enough, exactly as you are. And the more you live in alignment with that truth, the more you'll attract the right people, the right opportunities, and the right circumstances into your life. So stop measuring your success by other people's standards. Stop living your life by a checklist that someone else wrote. Start creating your own path, one step at a time, and don't be afraid to be different. The world needs people who are brave enough to be themselves, no matter what anyone else thinks. And when you live for yourself, when you create a life that's true to your own values and desires, that's when you'll experience true happiness and fulfillment. It's time to break free. It's time to live authentically. And it's time to stop letting society tell you who you should be. Chapter 12. The Journey to Authenticity. You've probably heard people talk about the importance of being authentic, but what does that really mean? It's one of those words that gets thrown around a lot, but when it comes down to it, many of us are still unsure of what true authenticity looks like in our own lives. We live in a world that constantly encourages us to put on masks, whether it's the mask of confidence, the mask of success, or the mask of happiness. We're taught that we need to fit into certain molds, to behave in certain ways, to project an image that aligns with what others expect of us. But here's the harsh truth: none of that will lead to real happiness. The only way to truly be happy and fulfilled in life is to be completely unapologetically, authentically you. It's hard to live authentically when the world is telling you who you should be. Everywhere you look, there are messages about what's cool, what's right, and what's successful. You see people with perfect lives on social media, driving fancy cars, wearing designer clothes, and it's easy to think that's the standard you should strive for. But here's the catch: those images you see aren't real. They're filtered, curated, and manipulated to create a fantasy. And when you start to compare yourself to that fantasy, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're measuring your worth against a version of reality that doesn't even exist. The truth is that living authentically isn't about looking perfect or fitting into a mold. It's about being honest with yourself and the world around you. It's about accepting who you are, flaws, quirks, and all, and not feeling the need to change or hide anything in order to meet someone else's expectations. It's about freeing yourself from the pressure to conform and instead embracing the freedom that comes with owning your true self. But this doesn't mean it's easy. Being authentic is hard because it requires vulnerability. It requires you to be honest with yourself and others, even when it's uncomfortable. And let's face it, vulnerability can feel like a weakness in a world that prizes strength, success, and perfection. But the truth is that vulnerability is actually one of your greatest strengths. It's what allows you to connect with other people on a deeper level. It's what makes you relatable. When you're willing to show up as your true self, without pretending or hiding behind a facade, you invite others to do the same. You create space for real, meaningful connections, and that's what makes life truly rich and fulfilling. The path to authenticity begins with self-awareness. You need to ask yourself some tough questions. Who am I, really? What do I want out of life? What do I care about? What makes me happy? For most of us, these questions aren't easy to answer because we've been so busy trying to meet the expectations of others that we've lost touch with who we are deep down. But if you want to live authentically, you have to take the time to reflect on these questions and get clear about your own values and desires. Start by looking inward. What are your core beliefs? What do you truly care about? Forget what your friends or family think you should care about for a moment. Forget what society tells you is important. This is about you. What lights you up? What gets you excited? What do you want to contribute to the world? These are the things that matter. These are the things that make you who you are. And when you live in alignment with your core values, you're able to walk through life with a sense of purpose and direction. You're not swayed by every opinion or external influence because you know exactly what you stand for. Next, you need to practice self-acceptance. This is where things get real. We all have flaws. We all have things about ourselves that we wish were different. But here's the kicker: your imperfections are what make you unique. They are part of your story, part of your journey. Embrace them. Don't hide from them. Stop trying to be someone you're not, just because you think that's what people want to see. The most powerful thing you can do is to be unapologetically you, flaws and all. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more real people. People who are willing to be vulnerable, honest and authentic, regardless of their imperfections. When you start living authentically, you'll notice something incredible happening. You'll begin to attract the right people into your life. When you stop pretending to be something you're not, you create space for true connection. You'll start drawing in people who appreciate you for who you truly are, not the version of you that you've been pretending to be. And those are the relationships that matter. Those are the relationships that will lift you up, support you, and help you grow. But being authentic isn't just about how you relate to others. It's also about how you relate to yourself. It's about being honest with yourself about what you want and need, and not settling for anything less. It's about taking the time to nurture your own well-being, to listen to your body and your mind, and to make choices that align with your true self. So often, we push ourselves to the limit in pursuit of success, approval, or external validation, but we neglect the most important relationship of all, the relationship with ourselves. When you start living authentically, you begin to treat yourself with the same love, respect, and kindness that you would offer to a friend. You stop criticizing yourself for every little mistake, and instead, you focus on growth and progress. You embrace your failures as lessons, not as evidence of your inadequacy. You stop comparing yourself to others and start comparing yourself to the person you were yesterday. And with each day that you show up as your true self, you grow stronger, more confident, and more at peace with who you are. There's a sense of freedom that comes with living authentically. You stop worrying about what other people think of you. You stop trying to fit into someone else's mold. You stop seeking approval from external sources and start trusting your own instincts. You become your own biggest supporter, your own biggest cheerleader, and when you do that, you give yourself the permission to truly live. Living authentically isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about embracing who you are, flaws and all, and showing up as yourself, without apology. And when you do that, you'll find that your life begins to transform in ways you never imagined. You'll attract the right people, the right opportunities, and the right circumstances. And most importantly, you'll experience a deep sense of fulfillment and happiness that comes from living life on your own terms. So stop pretending. Stop hiding behind the masks. Let go of the fear, the shame, and the need for approval. Embrace your authentic self and step into your true power. Because when you live authentically, everything else falls into place. Chapter 13. The obstacles of fear. Fear is something that we all deal with, no matter who we are or where we're from. It's one of those things that's always lurking, always there, whispering doubts and hesitations into our minds. But here's the thing, fear doesn't have to control your life. The problem is that we often let it. We let it stop us from pursuing our dreams, from taking risks, from stepping into new opportunities. Fear keeps us stuck, trapped in a cycle of inaction, and we listen to it like it's some kind of authority. But in reality, fear is just an illusion. It's not real. It's a mental construct, a product of our mind, and it only has as much power as we give it. The first step in overcoming fear is understanding it. Fear is not the enemy. It's a natural response to uncertainty. When you're about to step outside your comfort zone, when you're about to do something new or challenging, fear will show up. It's part of the human experience. The problem arises when we make fear mean something it doesn't. We start to believe that fear is a sign that we shouldn't do something, that it's a signal to stop, to retreat, to play it safe. But that's not true. Fear is just our brain trying to protect us from the unknown. It's trying to keep us safe, even if that means keeping us stuck. Once you realize that fear is just a natural response, something you can work with, rather than something to avoid, you can start to shift your mindset. The next time fear creeps in, instead of listening to it and allowing it to control your actions, ask yourself, what is this fear really telling me? Often it's not telling you that you should avoid taking action. It's telling you that you're on the verge of something big, something outside of your comfort zone. It's a sign that growth is just on the other side. Fear isn't a red light telling you to stop. It's a green light telling you that you're on the right track. So how do you overcome fear? The answer is simple. You have to feel it, face it, and take action in spite of it. It sounds easy enough, but I know it's not. Fear can be paralyzing. It can make you feel small, powerless, like you're not capable of handling what's ahead. But here's a little secret. You are capable. You've faced fear before and come out stronger on the other side. Think about the times in your life when you've pushed through fear. Maybe it was a job interview, a difficult conversation, or something as simple as standing up for yourself. Each time you faced fear, you proved to yourself that you were stronger than you thought. The key to overcoming fear is action. Fear thrives on inaction. The more you sit and think about the thing that scares you, the bigger and more intimidating it becomes. But when you take that first step, when you face the fear head-on, it loses its power. It shrinks. It becomes just another challenge to overcome. And as you take more and more action, that fear starts to fade away, replaced by confidence, strength, and a sense of accomplishment. The more you do it, the easier it gets. You prove to yourself, again and again, that fear has no hold over you. One thing that can really help when dealing with fear is to break it down. Sometimes the thing we fear seems so massive, so overwhelming, that it paralyzes us. But when you break it down into smaller, more manageable steps, it becomes less intimidating. If you're afraid of public speaking, don't focus on the whole speech. Just focus on the first sentence. Or maybe just focus on speaking to one person in the audience first. When you break it down like this, it's easier to take action because you're no longer thinking about the big, scary thing. You're just thinking about the next small step, and that's something you can handle. Another powerful tool for overcoming fear is to reframe it. Instead of viewing fear as something that's going to hold you back, start viewing it as an opportunity. Fear is the signal that you're about to grow. It's the signal that you're about to step into something new, something that could change your life. Instead of seeing it as a barrier, see it as a stepping stone. Every time you overcome fear, you level up. You become stronger, more resilient, and more capable. And the more you face your fears, the more you realize that they're not as big and scary as they once seemed. The fear is almost always worse than the reality. When fear strikes, it can also help to get out of your own head. Often fear is rooted in the stories we tell ourselves. We make up all these worst-case scenarios, imagining the worst possible outcome, and then we let that fear dictate our actions. But what if you could step back and ask yourself, what's the best that could happen? What if, instead of imagining failure, you allowed yourself to imagine success? What if the fear you're feeling right now is just a sign that something amazing is about to happen? It's all about shifting your perspective. Another way to tackle fear is to recognize that failure is a part of the process. Fear of failure is one of the biggest obstacles we face. We're afraid to try because we're afraid of getting it wrong. But here's the truth. Failure isn't the end of the road. It's just a lesson. Every time you fail, you learn something. Every time you fail, you get closer to success. So instead of fearing failure, embrace it. Welcome it. See it as a necessary step in your journey. Every successful person has failed at some point. The difference between them and those who never succeed is that they didn't let fear stop them. They failed, learned from it, and kept going. And that's what you need to do too. If you're really struggling with fear, it can also help to take a moment to breathe. Fear often triggers a fight or flight response in our bodies. Our hearts race, our palms sweat, and we can feel ourselves getting overwhelmed. But if you take a moment to pause, breathe, and ground yourself, you can reset your nervous system. You can remind yourself that you're safe, that you're capable, and that this fear doesn't control you. Just a few deep breaths can bring you back to the present moment and help you regain your sense of calm and clarity. Remember, fear is a natural part of life. It's not something to avoid or run from. It's something to face. And every time you do, you get stronger. You get more confident. You learn that fear isn't something to be afraid of, it's something to overcome. And the more you face your fears, the more you'll see that they have no power over you. The only power fear has is the power you give it. So take a deep breath, face it head on, and take that first step. You've got this. Chapter 14. The Habit of Gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful thing. We hear about it all the time, but do we truly understand its power? Do we practice it, or do we let the challenges of life blind us to what's good, to what we have? It's easy to get caught up in the struggles, to focus on what's not going right, and to forget about the things that are going well. But here's the thing, when you take the time to recognize and appreciate what you already have, it changes everything. It shifts your mindset, lifts your spirits, and opens up new possibilities. Gratitude doesn't just feel good, it's transformative. It has the power to improve your mental and emotional well-being, build resilience, and even help you achieve your goals. When I say gratitude is transformative, I mean it. The act of being thankful doesn't just brighten your day, it rewires your brain. Research shows that practicing gratitude can actually improve your overall happiness and sense of well-being. It helps reduce negative emotions like envy and resentment, while fostering positive emotions like joy and contentment. But here's the kicker, gratitude doesn't require anything extra. You don't need to wait for something big or special to happen. You don't need a perfect life to feel thankful. It's about being present and noticing the small things. The warmth of the sun on your face, a good cup of coffee, a conversation with a friend. These are all things to be grateful for. Gratitude starts with noticing what's already there. When you're stuck in a place where everything feels like it's going wrong, it's easy to think that there's nothing to be grateful for. You might look around and feel like the world is against you, like everything is falling apart. But even in those moments, there's always something to be thankful for. Maybe it's not something big. Maybe it's just that you woke up today, or that you have a roof over your head, or that you had the strength to get out of bed. Even on the hardest days, there's always something, no matter how small, to feel grateful for. The key is learning to see it. Gratitude isn't something that comes naturally to everyone. For some, it's easy to focus on the negative. But when you train your mind to focus on the positive, to notice what's good, you start to see the world differently. One of the best ways to start practicing gratitude is to keep a gratitude journal. This simple habit can completely change your perspective. Every day, write down at least 3 things you're thankful for. They don't have to be big or grand things, just the small stuff that makes life better. Maybe it's a kind gesture from someone, a beautiful sunset, or even just the fact that you have time to relax. The key is to make it a habit, to do it every day, without fail. When you start looking for things to be grateful for, you'll find that there's so much more than you realized. Your focus shifts from what you don't have to what you do. You start to appreciate the simple moments, the everyday blessings that you might have overlooked before. The beauty of gratitude is that it's not just about feeling good in the moment. It's about creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond yourself. When you express gratitude, whether it's through words or actions, it has the power to inspire others. Think about it. When someone takes the time to thank you or acknowledges something you did, how does it make you feel? It lifts you up, right? It makes you feel valued. Now imagine if you did that for others. If you took the time to genuinely thank them, to show appreciation for their kindness, their support, their presence in your life. You create a positive atmosphere around you. You help others feel seen and appreciated, and that's a powerful thing. But here's the thing about gratitude. It's not always easy. Some days, it feels hard to be thankful when things are tough. When you're facing challenges, When you're dealing with pain or frustration, gratitude can feel like a stretch. But those are the times when gratitude is most important. In moments of hardship, gratitude can be the anchor that keeps you grounded. It's the thing that helps you remember that even though things aren't perfect, they're still good. Gratitude doesn't negate your struggles, it helps you see them through a different lens. It helps you find meaning in the difficulty, to recognize the lessons and growth that come from tough times. It's not about ignoring your challenges, it's about acknowledging the good alongside the bad. Think about how often we get caught up in wanting more. We want more money, more success, more recognition, more stuff. We chase after things, thinking that once we get them, we'll finally be happy. But here's the truth, happiness doesn't come from external things. It comes from within. It comes from the way you choose to see the world. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for shifting your focus from what you lack to what you have. It's about learning to appreciate the present moment, rather than constantly striving for something better. When you practice gratitude, you start to realize that you already have everything you need to be happy. You have your health, your relationships, your talents, your experiences. You have everything that truly matters. Gratitude also helps you build resilience. Life is full of ups and downs, but when you focus on what you're thankful for, you become better equipped to handle adversity. It's easy to get discouraged when things aren't going your way, but gratitude helps you keep going. It reminds you that even in difficult times, there's something to be grateful for. It helps you stay grounded, stay focused, and keep moving forward. It's the thing that helps you see the light, even when it's hard to find. If you really want to experience the full power of gratitude, make it a daily practice. Start your day by thinking of 3 things you're thankful for. Write them down. Say them out loud. Whatever works for you, but make it a habit. Make it something you do every day. And don't stop there. Share your gratitude with others. Tell the people in your life how much you appreciate them. Send a thank you note. Acknowledge the kindness of others. Spread positivity. When you do, you'll find that gratitude becomes a natural part of who you are, and it changes everything. Gratitude is a choice. It's something you can choose to practice every day, no matter what's going on in your life. It's not about waiting for things to be perfect. It's about appreciating what you have right now, and when you do, you'll see that your whole world shifts. You'll start to notice the good in your life, and that will make all the difference. Gratitude isn't just a nice idea, it's a way of life. And when you choose it, you open yourself up to a life filled with joy, contentment, and peace. So take a moment right now, wherever you are, and think about one thing you're grateful for. Let that gratitude fill you up, and remember that even in the toughest of times, there's always something to be thankful for. Chapter 15. Discovering passions and interests. It's easy to go through life feeling like you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, right? You wake up every day and move through the motions. Maybe you work, maybe you go through your routine, but there's this sense that something is missing. It's like you're living but not really living. The question I want you to ask yourself today is simple. What are you truly passionate about? What drives you? What gets you excited? Makes you feel alive? This is a question so many people don't take the time to answer, but it's the foundation for everything else. If you want to live a life that's full, a life that feels meaningful, you have to start with your passions. But here's the thing about passions, they're not always easy to find. Sometimes we're so caught up in the demands of life that we forget to ask ourselves this question. Or maybe we've tried to chase after things that we thought were our passions, but they didn't give us that spark we expected. When I think back on my own journey, I can honestly say that there were times when I had no idea what my passions were. I was too busy trying to live up to other people's expectations, trying to succeed in ways that weren't even aligned with my own heart. It took me a long time to realize that passion isn't something you find out there, it's something you create from within. It comes from really knowing yourself and daring to ask the hard questions. It's not about what the world says you should care about or what other people expect from you. It's about what makes your soul come alive. The first step in discovering your passions is taking a step back and really listening to yourself. What lights you up when you think about it? What activities make time stand still for you? It could be something you've loved since you were a kid, or it could be something that you've always wanted to try, but never got around to. Maybe you've always loved painting, but never gave yourself the time to explore it. Or maybe you've always been fascinated by technology, but pushed it aside because you thought it was a silly dream. Whatever it is, it's in there, waiting to be discovered. But you have to give yourself permission to listen to that quiet voice inside you that's telling you what you love, what excites you. Now I know what you're probably thinking, but what if I don't know what I'm passionate about? Or worse, what if I'm not good at anything? Trust me, I get it. We've all been there, staring at our lives, wondering where the passion went. It's easy to get discouraged when you feel like you're not sure what your thing is. But here's the truth, you don't have to have everything figured out right now. In fact, that's one of the biggest misconceptions people have. We think we need to have our life's purpose figured out all at once, but that's just not how it works. Your passions are something you uncover as you move through life. Sometimes they don't come in a big shiny moment of clarity. Sometimes they come from trying things out, seeing what fits, and allowing yourself to grow along the way. Think of it like this. Imagine you're in a room full of different doors. Each door represents something new, something that could be your passion. But you won't know which one is the right door for you until you start opening them. Some doors will lead to things that don't resonate with you, and that's okay. Every time you try something new and it doesn't click, you learn a little more about what does. Every failure, every misstep is a part of the process. It's all about finding out what feels like you. And sometimes you don't know until you try. But let's say you do find something that sparks your interest. Maybe it's writing or photography or building something with your hands. Maybe it's teaching or cooking or helping people in a way you hadn't imagined before. Whatever it is, don't just let it sit there. Dive in, start small if you have to, but make it part of your routine. Dedicate time to it. Passion requires action. It's not enough to just recognize that you're interested in something. You have to feed it, nurture it, and allow it to grow. When you put time and energy into something you love, it becomes a part of who you are. And that's where the magic happens. One thing I want to emphasize here is that your passions don't have to look like anyone else's. This is your journey, and it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. I think that's one of the biggest barriers people face. They're afraid to pursue something because they think it's too weird or too different from what everyone else is doing. But who cares? Who are you living for? You're not here to live up to anyone else's idea of what success or happiness looks like. You're here to build a life that's true to you. And that means embracing the things that make you unique, the things that excite you, even if they don't fit into a neat little box. Now, as you begin to explore your passions, don't be surprised if you hit a few bumps along the way. It's not always going to be smooth sailing. There will be days when you feel discouraged, when you wonder if it's all worth it, when you doubt your ability to succeed. And that's okay. Passion isn't just about feeling excited all the time. It's about sticking with it, even when it gets hard. It's about choosing to show up, day after day, even when you don't feel like it. Because here's the thing, Every time you push through that doubt, every time you take one more step forward, you're getting closer to something bigger. You're learning more about yourself and what you're capable of. And when you keep going, you'll eventually reach a point where you can't imagine your life without this thing that brings you joy. Another thing to consider is that passions evolve. What you're passionate about now might not be the same thing you're passionate about in 5 or 10 years. That's completely normal. In fact, it's exciting. Life is all about growth and change, and as you evolve, so will your interests. What's important is that you stay open to that change. Don't lock yourself into one idea of who you are and what you should be doing. The beauty of discovering your passions is that they give you the freedom to explore, to grow, and to reinvent yourself over time. Ultimately, discovering and pursuing your passions is about living a life that's aligned with who you truly are. It's about waking up every day, excited for what's to come because you're doing something that matters to you. You don't have to have it all figured out right away. The key is to keep moving forward, to stay curious, and to embrace the process. Don't be afraid to try new things, to fail, to stumble along the way. Every step you take is bringing you closer to that life you've always dreamed of. So take that first step, and then the next one. The journey to discovering your passions starts with one simple choice: to believe that you are worthy of living a life that lights you up. And once you make that choice, nothing can stop you. Chapter 16. The power of intuition. Have you ever had a gut feeling about something? An instinct that told you to go for it, even though everything around you was telling you not to. Maybe it was that feeling that led you to make a bold decision, take a risk, or speak up when you normally wouldn't have. And when you listened to that voice, it turned out to be the best decision you could have made. But how often do we ignore that inner voice? How many times do we question ourselves, second-guess our choices, or listen to the noise around us instead of trusting our own instincts? The truth is, we all have this powerful tool inside us, our intuition, but far too many people ignore it, overthink it, or doubt it. But what if you could start trusting that inner guidance? What if you could strengthen that connection to your intuition so that you didn't just hear it, but knew how to follow it? The reality is, we all have a deep intuitive sense of what's right for us, what aligns with our true purpose, and what path will lead us toward growth and fulfillment. It's that quiet voice that speaks directly to your heart, often in ways that logic can't explain. The more you listen to it, the stronger it becomes. But in a world where we're constantly bombarded with opinions, advice, and noise, it's easy to lose touch with that inner voice. It's easy to start questioning yourself, doubting your choices, and second-guessing what you know deep down to be true. But here's the thing. Your intuition is your superpower. When you learn how to listen to it and trust it, you tap into something that guides you through life with confidence, clarity, and a sense of purpose. It's the ability to make decisions that feel right in your soul, even when they don't make sense on paper. It's the ability to walk through life with a sense of certainty, knowing that you're exactly where you're meant to be, even if the journey is uncertain. So how do you start listening to your intuition? How do you develop a deeper connection with that inner wisdom that's always there, waiting for you to pay attention? It begins with slowing down. In today's world, we're always rushing from one thing to the next, moving through life at a pace that leaves little room for self-reflection. But the more you rush, the more you drown out the quiet, subtle voice of your intuition. To really tap into it, you have to make space for stillness. You have to give yourself the time and mental clarity to hear it. One of the simplest ways to do this is by spending time in solitude. Whether it's through meditation, journaling, or just taking a walk alone, you have to create moments where you're not distracted by the noise of the world. It's in these moments of quiet that you can hear that inner voice. It might not speak to you in bold, dramatic ways. It might come in small nudges or feelings, but the more you tune in, the more you'll start to recognize it. And once you start recognizing it, you can begin to trust it. Another powerful tool for strengthening your intuition is learning how to quiet the inner critic. We all have that voice in our heads that tells us we're not good enough, that we can't do something, or that we should follow what others are doing. This voice often drowns out our intuitive sense, making us doubt ourselves. To strengthen your intuition, you have to start pushing that voice aside. You have to remind yourself that your instincts are just as valuable as any piece of advice you'll ever get. The more you silence the critic and listen to what feels right for you, the more connected you become to your true self. The beauty of intuition is that it doesn't need to be justified. It doesn't require logic, and it doesn't care about what makes sense to others. It's a deeply personal experience that you don't have to explain to anyone else. It's your truth, and that's all that matters. And the more you trust that truth, the more powerful your intuition becomes. You begin to make decisions based on what you feel is right for you, not because it's what everyone else is doing, or because it's the safe choice. You start to make decisions that are in alignment with who you are and where you're going. You stop waiting for permission, and you stop second-guessing yourself. You know what's best for you. But let's be real here, listening to your intuition isn't always easy. There will be times when you feel torn, unsure or afraid. When your heart is telling you one thing, but your mind is telling you another. This is when the power of trusting your intuition becomes even more important. It's easy to follow the logical path, the one that's clear and mapped out for you, but the real magic happens when you take that leap of faith, when you step into the unknown and trust that the path will unfold as you move forward. The more you do this, the more you'll learn that life doesn't always work according to the rules you've been taught. Sometimes, the only rule that matters is listening to your own heart. As you get more comfortable with trusting your intuition, you'll notice that it starts showing up in more areas of your life. It guides you in your relationships, your career, your personal growth. You'll begin to notice patterns and signs that point you in the right direction. Maybe it's a certain person you meet, or an opportunity that feels too right to pass up, or a decision that just feels right, even though you can't explain why. These are the little nudges that come from your intuition, telling you to take action, to move forward, to trust the process. But here's the catch: intuition doesn't always lead to smooth paths. It doesn't promise that everything will be easy, or that you'll never face challenges. In fact, listening to your intuition often means stepping out of your comfort zone and into situations that feel uncertain. But this is where the real growth happens. Your intuition isn't here to protect you from challenges, it's here to guide you through them. It's here to help you find your way, even when the road is unclear. And when you trust it, even in the tough moments, you learn that you're capable of handling more than you ever imagined. The key is to keep trusting the process, even when it doesn't make sense, even when you feel scared, even when everyone else is telling you to do something else. If you listen closely enough, your intuition will always guide you toward the life you're meant to live. It might not be the easiest path, but it will be the most rewarding. The more you listen to your intuition, the more you'll come to realize that it's the key to unlocking your true potential. It's the key to living a life that's authentic, meaningful, and aligned with your deepest desires. So take a deep breath, quiet the noise, and start listening to the wisdom that's already inside you. Trust it. It knows the way. Chapter 17. Embracing change. Life is change. It's not static. It doesn't stay the same. And if we're being honest, it never really gives us a break. We all go through seasons where things shift, sometimes slowly, other times all at once. Some changes are huge, like a career change, a relationship ending, or a big move. Others might seem smaller, but are just as impactful, like the way you look at the world after reading a life-changing book, or taking on a new challenge. But no matter the size, change is inevitable. It's not a matter of if, but when. And the thing is, as much as we might like to think we can avoid it or control it, change has a way of happening whether we're ready for it or not. The question is, how do we navigate those changes when they come? How do we embrace them instead of resisting them? A lot of people get caught up in fear when change comes knocking. There's this deep-seated feeling that change means losing something or stepping into the unknown, and that can be terrifying. The familiar, even if it's not perfect, feels safer, so we hold on to it. We try to cling to what we know because we fear what might happen if we let go. But what if we shifted our perspective and saw change not as something to fear, but as an opportunity to grow, evolve, and become something better than we were before? Change can feel uncomfortable. That's just part of it. Whether it's a new job, a move to a different city, a shift in your social circle, or just something as simple as a change in routine, our brains are wired to resist anything that feels unfamiliar. But that discomfort is a sign of growth. It's the process of shedding the old version of yourself and stepping into a new one. And while it can be scary, it's also exciting because it means you're on the edge of something new, something better. One of the most important things to remember when you're faced with change is that it's okay to feel uncertain. In fact, uncertainty is often a sign that you're pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone. When you're in that place of not knowing exactly what's going to happen next, it's easy to feel like you're on shaky ground. But I want you to understand something. Shaky ground is where the magic happens. It's the place where you grow the most. When everything feels uncertain, it means you're not stuck anymore. It means you're moving, evolving, and becoming who you're meant to be. And here's the thing, you can't change if you're not willing to leave behind the parts of your life that no longer serve you. I know it's hard, but there are things, people and habits that you need to release in order to step into the next phase of your life. Holding on to what's familiar can feel comforting, but it can also keep you stuck in the same cycle. So when change comes, it's not just about adjusting to the new, it's also about letting go of the old. And when you do that, you free up space for new opportunities, for growth, and for the future you've always wanted. What I want you to understand is that change doesn't have to be something that happens to you. It can be something you choose. In fact, some of the most powerful changes come from when we decide to take control of our own lives. You have the power to change your circumstances. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it does mean it's possible. And sometimes all it takes is one decision, one action to set the wheels in motion. Maybe it's deciding to leave a job that's draining you, starting a new project, or cutting ties with people who no longer align with your values. Whatever it is, take that first step and trust that the rest will follow. The truth is, we often resist change because we think it means we have to sacrifice something. We think that letting go of something familiar will be too painful or too difficult. But the reality is, change often brings us closer to who we're really meant to be. It forces us to look at ourselves, to dig deeper into our values, and to discover new parts of ourselves that we never knew existed. Change is an invitation to get to know yourself better, to push past your limits, and to realize that you are capable of more than you thought. When you start to embrace change, you begin to realize that life is not about holding on to things or trying to control every detail. It's about learning how to adapt, how to move through transitions with grace, and how to trust that everything will work out the way it's supposed to. I'm not saying that every change is easy. Some changes are downright painful, but I am saying that when you learn to navigate change, you become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. You learn that you can handle whatever life throws at you, and that the discomfort of change is just a sign that you're growing, evolving, and becoming who you were always meant to be. There's another piece to all of this, and it's something that's often overlooked. Patience. Change takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And while it's easy to get frustrated or discouraged when things aren't happening as quickly as you'd like, it's important to understand that the process of change is just as valuable as the destination. When you're in the middle of a big transition, it can feel like you're not making any progress, like you're stuck in the in-between. But those moments of discomfort, those moments of waiting, are where the real work happens. It's where you build the strength and resilience you need to face whatever comes next. When you're in the midst of change, don't rush the process. Give yourself the time you need to adjust, to heal, and to grow, and understand that not every step will be linear. There will be setbacks, there will be moments of doubt, and there will be times when it feels like you're going backward. But that's all part of the journey. Progress isn't always a straight line. Sometimes it's a series of ups and downs, but each step, even the ones that feel like setbacks, is part of the bigger picture. The key to navigating change is resilience. It's the ability to bounce back when things get tough, to adapt when life throws you a curveball, and to keep moving forward even when you don't know exactly where you're going. Resilience is what allows you to face challenges with confidence, to embrace uncertainty with courage, and to trust that no matter what happens, you will come out stronger on the other side. As you go through life, change will always be there. It's inevitable, but instead of fearing it, embrace it. Welcome it as a sign that you're growing, evolving, and becoming more of who you were always meant to be. Change is not the enemy. It's the teacher, the guide, the force that pushes you to go beyond what you thought was possible. And when you learn how to navigate it with grace, patience, and resilience, you become unstoppable. So let change come. Let it challenge you, shape you, and help you become the person you were always meant to be. Chapter 18. The role of affirmations. Affirmations are one of those things that can sound almost too simple to work, and yet they have an incredible power to shift the way we see ourselves and our world. If you've ever been told to repeat something positive to yourself, I am worthy, I am strong, I am capable, you might have brushed it off as something that wouldn't really make a difference. It can sound a little fluffy, right? But let me tell you, the way you speak to yourself has a profound impact on the way you experience life. Words carry energy. The way you talk to yourself, the stories you tell yourself, those things shape your reality. And if you're not careful, they can also limit you. Think about it. We all have that inner voice, don't we? The one that either pushes us forward or holds us back. It's the voice that tells us we're not good enough, or the voice that whispers that we can't do something, or that we don't deserve success or happiness. Now, what if you could change that inner dialogue? What if you could turn that voice from one of doubt and fear into one of empowerment and belief? That's where affirmations come in. Affirmations are simple, positive statements that you repeat to yourself to shift your mindset and reinforce what you want to believe about yourself. The beauty of affirmations lies in their simplicity, but also in their repetition. The more you say them, the more you believe them. The more you believe them, the more they start to show up in your life. You see, your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant there, it grows. If you plant seeds of negativity, you'll get a garden full of doubt, fear, and insecurities. But if you plant seeds of positivity, of confidence, of self-love, those are the things that will bloom in your life. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but if I don't believe it yet, how can I say it? And that's a fair question. If you've been used to a lifetime of negative self-talk, the idea of affirming things like, "I am worthy," might feel strange. It might even feel like you're lying to yourself at first. But here's the thing, you're not lying, you're just choosing to speak into existence the person you want to become. You're aligning your words with your future, not with your past, and that's powerful. Let's take an example. If you struggle with self-worth, an affirmation like, "I am worthy of love and success," might feel uncomfortable at first. But the more you say it, the more your subconscious starts to internalize it. Over time, you'll begin to act in ways that align with that belief. You'll make choices that reflect your worth, and opportunities that reflect your worth will start to show up. Affirmations don't work by magic. They work because they help you shift your mindset, and your mindset is what shapes your actions. Your actions are what shape your life. It's also important to remember that affirmations are not about being arrogant or pretending to be something you're not. They're about recognizing your potential and opening yourself up to the possibility of becoming that person. You're not saying "I am perfect," because that's not realistic. What you're saying is, "I am worthy of growth. I am capable of achieving my goals. I am resilient, and I am deserving of everything that comes my way." These are truths that you can begin to embody, little by little, day by day. One of the things that makes affirmations so powerful is the emotional connection you bring to them. It's not just about repeating words over and over, it's about truly feeling them. When you say your affirmations, really think about what they mean. Don't just let the words pass by your lips, let them sink deep into your heart. Visualize what it would feel like if what you were saying were already true. Imagine how your life would change, how you would walk into each day with a sense of confidence, with a belief in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. Feel that energy, that shift, and let it become part of you. For example, when you say, "I am confident and capable," picture yourself walking into a room, exuding confidence. See yourself tackling challenges with a sense of calm, knowing that no matter what, you'll find a way through. When you say, "I deserve love and respect," feel what it would be like to be treated with kindness, to have your boundaries respected, and to experience deep, meaningful connections. When you say, "I am enough," really sit with that feeling. What does it feel like to know that you are enough, just as you are, without needing to prove anything to anyone? The key is to make those affirmations real for yourself. Don't just repeat them as words, experience them as truths. And here's the beauty of it, the more you feel those truths, the more your actions will begin to reflect them. When you truly believe that you are capable, you start making decisions that align with that belief. You take on challenges, you push yourself out of your comfort zone, you take risks, and every time you do, you reinforce that affirmation in your life. Another important thing to understand about affirmations is that they work best when they are specific and aligned with your goals. General affirmations like "I am successful" can be powerful, but if you're looking for something more tangible, it helps to get specific. Think about the areas of your life where you want to see change and create affirmations that reflect those desires. If you're trying to build a business, for example, your affirmation could be "I am building a thriving and successful business that helps others." If you're working on your health, it might be "I am strong, healthy, and taking consistent steps toward my wellness." The more specific your affirmation, the more real it feels. But don't get discouraged if things don't change overnight. Affirmations are a long-term game. You might not see immediate results, but over time your mindset will shift, and with that shift will come changes in your behavior, your decisions, and your experiences. The more you repeat your affirmations, the more you start to believe them, and the more you begin to align your life with them. It's not about instant results. It's about building a foundation of self-belief that grows stronger with each day. And as you continue this practice, you'll begin to notice something incredible. Your life starts to reflect your affirmations. Opportunities you never saw before start to appear. You feel more confident, more resilient, more capable of handling whatever comes your way. Your relationships improve. Your mindset shifts from one of scarcity to abundance. You start to see yourself not as someone who is just getting by, but as someone who is capable of creating the life they want. You become the person you've been affirming all along. So don't underestimate the power of a simple affirmation. It's not about tricking yourself. It's about aligning your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions with the person you are becoming. When you make that choice to speak positivity into your life, to believe in your worth, to affirm your power and your potential, you are taking the first step toward creating the life you deserve. And that, my friend, is one of the most powerful things you can do. Chapter 19. Celebrating progress and achievements. When you're on a journey of personal growth, it's easy to get lost in the grind, the hustle, the constant pressure to be better, do more, achieve everything you set your mind to. But there's something incredibly powerful about stepping back and just appreciating how far you've come. Often, we're so focused on the next goal, the next milestone, that we forget to look at how much we've already accomplished. But that's where true growth lies. It's not just about what you haven't achieved yet. It's about celebrating the progress you've made, no matter how small it may seem in the moment. Think about this for a second. How often do you stop and truly acknowledge your own progress? I mean, really take a moment to reflect on everything you've overcome, every step you've taken, every lesson you've learned along the way. We can get so caught up in looking ahead that we fail to recognize the milestones we've passed. We forget to celebrate the small victories, the ones that ultimately lead to the bigger picture. But it's those small victories that are the true building blocks of success. Every time you push yourself to do better, even when you feel like giving up, you're making progress. Every time you stand up after a failure, you're growing. And that deserves to be celebrated. There's a real power in acknowledging where you've been. It's a reminder that you're capable, that you've got the strength to keep moving forward. It can be easy to brush off your achievements as not good enough or just part of the process. But I want you to stop and think for a moment. What if everything you've accomplished so far is in fact more than enough? What if your journey up to this point has been exactly what you needed to learn, grow, and become who you're meant to be? It's important to understand that progress doesn't always look like some big grand achievement. It's not always about hitting the huge goal, getting the promotion, or making the big breakthrough. Sometimes progress looks like showing up every single day, even when you're exhausted. Sometimes it's about learning how to be kind to yourself when you feel like you're falling short. Progress is about the small shifts in your mindset, the tiny steps forward that build up over time. It's the days when you didn't quit, when you pushed through despite the setbacks, or when you did something that challenged you, even if it was scary. Those are the moments that matter. If you take a minute to think about the person you were a year ago, or even a few months ago, I bet you'll realize just how far you've come. Sure, maybe you haven't achieved everything you thought you would, but you've learned a lot, haven't you? Maybe you've learned how to be more resilient. Maybe you've learned how to handle rejection with grace. Or maybe you've learned how to trust yourself, to listen to that inner voice that tells you when it's time to keep going, or when it's time to rest. The truth is, growth is a process, and there's no deadline for when you should have everything figured out. It's about progress, not perfection. One of the most powerful ways to recognize your progress is through reflection. And that doesn't mean just glancing back at the past and ticking off a few accomplishments. It means really looking at where you were, where you are now, and acknowledging everything that's changed along the way. Maybe you used to struggle with confidence, but now you can step into a room and speak your mind without second-guessing yourself. Maybe you used to be terrified of failure, but now you know that every setback is just a lesson in disguise. Maybe you've gotten better at managing your time, or maybe you've learned how to prioritize your health and well-being over work. Whatever your progress looks like, it deserves to be celebrated. It's easy to get caught in the trap of comparison. Social media doesn't help. It's full of people showing their best moments, their highlights, and it can make you feel like everyone else is ahead of you. But let me tell you something. Comparing your journey to someone else's is a surefire way to rob yourself of joy. Everyone is on their own path, moving at their own pace. What matters is not how quickly you get there, but how much you learn and grow along the way. So stop looking at where everyone else is and start focusing on your own progress. Celebrate the fact that you're showing up for yourself every day, even when things aren't perfect. One of the most powerful ways to honor your progress is by writing it down. Journaling is a simple but incredibly effective tool to track your growth. It helps you process your thoughts, reflect on your actions, and recognize the shifts happening within you. When you write about your journey, it becomes real. It's no longer just something in your head. It's something tangible, something you can look back on and say, "Wow, I've come a long way." Writing gives you a clear picture of where you've been, and it helps you recognize patterns in your thinking, behavior, and decisions. Over time, you'll begin to see just how much you've changed and how far you've come, and that's worth celebrating. Another way to celebrate your progress is by sharing it with others. When you share your journey with people you trust, friends, family, mentors, you invite them to be part of your growth. It's easy to think you're in this alone, but the truth is, we're all connected through our experiences. When you share your victories, no matter how small they may seem, you inspire others to do the same. You remind them that progress isn't about perfection, it's about showing up, putting in the work, and celebrating every little win along the way. And let's not forget the importance of gratitude in this process. Gratitude is a powerful tool that shifts your focus from what you don't have to what you do have. When you take the time to appreciate the small things, your health, your family, your work, the roof over your head, you shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude reminds you that you've already come so far, and there's so much to be thankful for. When you celebrate your progress, you're practicing gratitude for the effort you've put in and the growth you've experienced. At the end of the day, celebrating progress isn't about throwing a party for yourself every time you do something right. It's about taking a moment to pause, reflect, and acknowledge how far you've come. It's about giving yourself credit for the effort you've put in and the lessons you've learned. It's about recognizing that every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. And when you do that, you'll find that the journey becomes more enjoyable. You'll feel more fulfilled. You'll start to see the beauty in the process, not just the end result. So take a moment to celebrate yourself. You've worked hard, you've grown, and that's something worth acknowledging. No matter where you are on your journey, remember that progress is progress, and every step forward is something to be proud of. Keep going, keep growing, and most importantly, keep celebrating yourself along the way. Chapter 20. Continuing the journey alone. Every single person you look up to, every success story you've heard, every name that's been etched into history, they all started with a moment of decision. A decision to stop waiting. A decision to stop hoping for the perfect conditions, the perfect timing, the perfect circumstances. They understood that waiting for perfection is just another way of procrastinating. And the truth is, the only thing standing between you and the life you want is your willingness to take action right now. not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now, the thing about life is, it doesn't wait for you to feel prepared. It doesn't pause for you to gather courage or to plan out every step. Life is happening right now, in this moment, and every second you spend doubting yourself or waiting for the right time is a second you'll never get back. So why wait? Why let fear, self-doubt, or the opinions of others keep you stuck in the same place? You've got everything you need to start, right here, right now. You see, starting doesn't mean you have to have it all figured out. It doesn't mean you need to know every step of the journey before you take the first one. Starting simply means deciding that where you are right now is not where you want to stay. It's about saying, I'm ready to move forward, even if I don't know exactly where this path will lead. Because here's the thing, clarity comes with action. Confidence comes with progress. You don't wait to feel ready, you create readiness by taking that first step. I know what you're thinking. What if I fail? What if I make a mistake? What if I'm not good enough? And I get it. Those thoughts are loud and they're persistent. But let me tell you something. Failure is part of the process. Mistakes are part of the process. Growth doesn't come from getting everything right the first time. It comes from learning, adjusting, and trying again. The people who succeed are not the ones who never fail. They're the ones who refuse to let failure define them. They're the ones who get back up, over and over again, no matter how many times they fall. The real question you need to ask yourself isn't what if I fail? It's what if I never try? What if you let this moment pass you by? What if you keep waiting for the right time, the right feeling, the right opportunity, and it never comes? What if you wake up one day and realize you've spent your whole life waiting instead of living? That, my friend, is the real failure. That's the regret that will haunt you far more than any mistake ever could. Starting is scary. I won't lie to you about that. It's uncomfortable. It's messy. It's uncertain. But it's also exhilarating. It's empowering. It's the moment when you take back control of your life and decide to stop letting fear dictate your choices. When you start, you're telling the world and yourself that you believe in your potential, that you're willing to bet on yourself, even when the odds feel stacked against you. And that's a powerful thing. Here's the beautiful part. Once you start, momentum takes over. That first step might feel like the hardest thing you've ever done, but once you take it, the second step is just a little easier, and the third step is easier still. With every step you take, you'll gain confidence, you'll learn, you'll grow, and before you know it, you'll look back and realize how far you've come. But none of that can happen if you don't take that first step. I want you to think about the life you want, not just the surface-level goals, but the kind of life that makes you feel alive. The kind of life that gets you out of bed in the morning, excited to take on the day. The kind of life that feels meaningful, fulfilling, and true to who you are. That life is waiting for you, but it's not going to come to you on its own. You have to go out and create it. You have to be willing to take risks, face your fears, and do the hard work. And it all starts with one decision. The decision to begin. There's a saying I love. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. It's simple, but it's powerful. Because no matter how big your dreams are, no matter how far away they may seem, the only way to get there is to start walking. One step at a time. One day at a time. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to start. Think about it. What's the worst that could happen? Maybe you'll stumble. Maybe you'll fall. Maybe things won't go exactly as planned. But so what? That's life. The worst thing you can do is let the fear of failure keep you from trying. Because even if you fall, you'll learn. And that learning will make you stronger, wiser, and better equipped for the next step. Every failure is just another step closer to success. On the flip side, think about what could happen if you succeed. Think about the doors that could open, the opportunities that could come your way, the person you could become. Think about how it would feel to wake up every day knowing you're living a life that aligns with your purpose. That's what's waiting for you on the other side of fear. That's what's possible when you choose to start. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting. Stop overthinking. Stop telling yourself you're not ready, because you are. You've been ready. The only thing left to do is take action. Start small if you have to. Take the tiniest step forward. But start. Don't let another day go by where you're standing still, stuck in the same place, wishing for a better life. You have the power to create that life. And it starts with one decision, one step. You've got this. You're capable of so much more than you realize. The journey won't be easy, but it will be worth it. And every step you take will bring you closer to the person you're meant to be. So take that first step. Start now. The rest of your life is waiting for you, and it's going to be incredible.